may be the most dangerous story Jesus tells. Everyone in this story, all three characters, are in a conflict. All three will face a crisis. And at the end, some questions remain unanswered. So just a warning, danger ahead. Now the first two verses I'll read from chapter 15 of Luke should have us on high alert, because we have to look at the audience for this story. Jesus is speaking to two warring groups: the outcasts, the tax collectors and sinners, and the power brokers who have Jesus already on their enemy list. So all the while, Jesus tells this parable, he's looking in the eyes of these two groups, looking to those who might be thought similar to what's going on in the story. The younger brother could be the outcasts, the tax collectors, the sinners. The older, self-righteous brother, more like the Pharisees and Sadducees. You see, this situation could explode at any moment. So now we read the Holy Gospel according to Luke, the 15th chapter. Now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to Jesus, and the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So he told them this parable. There was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me." So the father divided his property between them. A few days later, the younger son gathered up all he had and traveled to a distant country. And there he squandered his property in dissolute living. When he had spent every last thing, a severe famine took place throughout that country, and he began to be in real need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare? But here I am, dying of hunger. I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands.' So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him, kissed him. And then the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his slaves, 'Quickly, bring out a robe, get the best one, and then put it on him, and put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And get the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now, his elder son, was in the field. And when he came and approached the house, he heard the music and dancing. So he called one of the slaves and asked what was going on. The slave replied, "Your brother has come, and your father has killed a fatted calf because he has got him back safe and sound." Then he became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and began to plead with him, but he answered his father, "Listen, for all these years I've been working like a slave for you, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me even a young goat, so that I may celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him." Then the father said to him, "Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice, because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found." Gospel of the Lord. Well, you heard it here. Both brothers are in conflict. What about the father? Of course, his heart has been breaking. He's been torn because the family is, well, neither son wants what the father wants. And you know, he must have been watching that road every day, or else he wouldn't have seen him while he was still far off. That father was waiting and watching and hoping, stirred up, and the older brother, no doubt, saw father paying attention that way. Now the younger one treats his father with disrespect to start with, and makes demands that no son, neither younger nor elder, should ever make. Because he says, "My inheritance is now, and I'm leaving." Well, this man wants to be in charge and living large, and that's not how family in those days was expected to work. You run a farm, there's daily work to do, it's all hands on deck, and everyone carries their share of the load. So the first crisis is the younger son breaking up the home, refusing to do what was each one's responsibility, and basically saying, "I don't care. I don't care about you, Dad. I don't care about your brother. I don't care about anyone but myself. Give me the keys to the car and I'm gone." Well, even when this son returned, you know, it wasn't about restoring the family. It doesn't say that. It was only to have a steady meal and a roof over his head, because he didn't have it. And still, the father welcomed him. This heartbroken father saw hope for the family to be whole again when the younger son returned. But what was happening with the older one? Jesus' eyes must have turned toward those Pharisees and scribes as he described the firstborn's rant. After all, he considered himself the good kid, right? The one who never left, the one who always was responsible, worked hard, did his duty, righteous. How does he sound to you? When he's talking to his father, does his tone seem kind? Appreciative? Mm-hmm. Is this a man of generous heart? Hardly. It sounds like he grudges every hard-working day. Sounds like in his own property, which that farm will be because it was going to be his share, you'd think he would invest the time. Instead, the man asks, "Where's my party?" Gave a feast for him and not for me. A broken-hearted father has two very selfish sons, it seems. And all he wants is family bond that supports both boys. The father's sad, even as he's glad the younger one is home. Will these brothers ever reconcile? Cain and Abel didn't. Did Jacob and Esau? How about Joseph and his brothers? Do we notice a recurring theme? And today, there's Israel and Palestine. They were brothers once. Jesus tells a story with no ending, we notice. By chapter 15 in Luke, we also notice he could see where the Pharisees and the scribes were going. There would be no welcome for him, not from them, nor for their outcast brothers. Jesus told another story specifically about a Pharisee and a tax collector, remember? On the steps of the temple. The Pharisee kindly informs God how good he is, lets him know how upstanding and right-thinking he is. And the tax collector, in complete humility, won't raise his eyes, stands at the bottom step. And God forgives him, says Jesus. He has the right spirit. See, what Jesus wants is what the Father wants. The family made whole, all brothers and sisters together again, in peace. And he invites us today into this story, that we might ask, where are our hopes for this family? What will it take from God, from the living God, to be part of the reconciling of all the brothers and sisters? What will God need to heal in us so that we can share in the love, the peace, and the joy of being together? Well, thanks be to God. He knows what we need, and he will draw us to his heart forever. Amen.